What a weekend of action at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Once again, Bristol always produces good racing, no matter the track surface, the banking, the tires, the PJ1, no matter what it is, Bristol's always good, no matter what. I mean, I don't know the last time I've seen a bad Bristol race. Bristol always produces. It produced this whole weekend with a great Truck Series race, a great Xfinity Series race, and a fantastic Cup Series race. But it was a crazy week of NASCAR news the whole week. We learned that David Reagan would be retiring from Cup competition full time, leaving the 38 ride open for next season. Obviously, some decisions are going to be made there about who takes that ride. And then on Thursday, we had a lot of news. We learned that Matt Benedetto would not be returning to the 95 for next season, most likely going to Christopher Bell, who is stuck in the Xfinity Series in the number 20 car right now and has been performing greatly the past few seasons. And then later that day, we learned of an airplane running off the end of the runway and bursting into flames at a small Tennessee airport near Bristol, and it was later found out that it was the airplane of Dale Earnhardt Jr., which had two pilots on board along with himself, his wife, Amy, his daughter, Isla, and his dog, Gus. Thankfully and luckily, somehow, someway, everyone got out of the plane okay. There were minor injuries like cuts, bruises, scrapes, but that's nothing compared to what it could have been. It could have been a lot worse. So we're glad that everyone's doing okay there. We hope everyone is fine from that and everything goes well for the Earnhardts for the rest of the year. It was sad to see Dale not be at the track this weekend, not be in the booth, but it was great for him to just get some time off after that, spend some time with family, and hopefully we can see him back at Darlington in the booth. If not, hopefully he just gets back whenever he can. Obviously take some time off because of that, because that's a traumatic experience. Obviously, it doesn't help that in 2004 with his crash in the sports car at Sonoma with the whole flames and getting second and third degree burns and almost burning alive in that car. So being in a plane crash with some fire, that's not the best for the mind, the mental game. But enough of the sad talk. Thankfully, everyone's okay. We're wishing the best for the Earnhardts. But the racing at Bristol this weekend. So before the race weekend, Bristol Motor Speedway went in and basically scrubbed off the top groove. What they did was they used to grind the top groove, basically trying to take away grip from that groove and make it so that the bottom was worthwhile. But when they did that back around like 2012, I think they did that, 2012, 2013, it actually made the top the more preferred lane. So this time they just scrubbed all the rubber off the top, and it was clean, and really no one's going to go up there because there was no grip up there. So what we saw in the truck race was mostly single file down at the bottom of the racetrack racing. At some points, though, you can make the middle work, like the middle would work. The way top didn't really work during the truck race. There wasn't enough laps to really make it work. It was only like a 200 lap race or something. So, it was still a good race. I think, though, the truck race was probably the least favorable of the three races this weekend. And that's saying a lot because the truck race was a good race. Then we move forward to the Xfinity race, where to people's just discussed, I guess, three Cup drivers were racing. It was Eric Jones in the 81, Kyle Busch in the 18, and Joey Logano in the 12 car. Jones and Logano didn't qualify too well. Kyle Busch qualified very well and quickly established himself at the front of the field, passing Austin Cindric early and leading early on. However, the race was not smooth sailing for the Cup drivers at all. Early in the race, Cole Custer and Christopher Bell were running third and fourth, battling for those positions. When off turn 2, Custer made a three-way move to the outside of the lap cars, one of them being the number 5. The 5 squeezed the 00 into the wall. Custer came down into Bell, and those two spun down the backstretch. Custer spun up, Bell both go up the racetrack into the racing groove in turn 3. Cindric barely avoids. Eric Jones avoids the 20 car but runs into the side of the 00. Same goes for the 12 of Joey Logano. That means 2 Cup drivers were eliminated from that crash right there, and Cole Custer and Christopher Bell never had a shot at the front again. Later on in the race, Kyle Busch gets around Justin Allgaier and others. At one point during the race as well, it was the end of stage number 1. Stage number 1 ended under yellow because of some crazy racing between Tyler Reddick and Justin Allgaier. Allgaier led the race. Reddick was running him down in the second position. Reddick jumped to the inside and just overdrove the corner. Got really he was hard on the gas trying to get to Allgaier and get by him. He wanted the stage win. He had to start last. He started last and had a drive-through penalty at the beginning of the race because he failed pre-race inspection 4 times. So not only did he have to start last, he then had to come down pit road and do a drive-through penalty, which put him a lap down early. He recovered, got back on the lead lap, started flying through the field, and was in contention to win stage number 1. Drove to the inside of Allgaier in 3 and 4, got very loose down the bottom of the racetrack, and spun inside of Allgaier. Actually got the 7 off the racetrack. Allgaier did a great job saving the car, not hitting the wall. I mean, it was very close to Allgaier get some significant damage, and Brandon Jones drove by and ended up winning stage number 1. Stage 2 went to Kyle Busch. However, it wasn't smooth sailing for Kyle Busch either. He won stage number 2, but a price for the 18 car was paid when there was smoke coming out of the 18 car. Turns out, engine issues put Kyle Busch out of the Food City 300 in the Xfinity Series early. So he won stage 2, and they immediately retired the car to the garage area because of an engine failure. So it was wide open then for Xfinity regulars to win this race. Drivers like Noah Gragson were out there. Allgaier, Reddick, Michael Nett was on the lead lap. Jeb Burton was on the lead lap, but then had to go. I think he had brake issues on the 8 car. There was Chase Briscoe that was up there at the front. There were a lot of Xfinity regulars that had shot, and they were really different Xfinity regulars because Bell was laps down, so was Custer. The only one that was really the same winner was Tyler Reddick. The guy who runs up front pretty much every race was Tyler Reddick. But throughout the race, we saw some different pit strategy. At one point, a yellow came out. Justin Allgaier and a few others stayed on the racetrack, while most of the lead lap cars, now keep in mind there are only like 10 lead lap cars at this point, came down pit road. The first one being Tyler Reddick. He left pit road in, I think, 6th position. So I think about 5 cars decided to stay on the racetrack or something. The green flag flew. Allgaier got out to the lead. Reddick quickly got to second. And the gap was pretty much about 2 seconds. Ryan Sieg and the 51 of Jeremy Clements were having great runs. Both were running inside the top 10. Sieg was actually running second and was holding Reddick back, allowed Allgaier to get a 2-second lead. That lead shrunk down a little bit to 1.5 seconds, but it was quickly stabilizing there until Justin Allgaier caught Landon Castle in the 4 car. Now, if you remember at Watkins Glen, this probably had something to do with it. If you remember at Watkins Glen, through the bus stop, side by side for Chastain and Allgaier went around and hit the tire barriers. Then a few laps later, Allgaier went back out and junked the 4 car in the carousel. Maybe the 4 team reminded Landon Castle, hey, this guy hasn't been nice to us in the past. Make it as hard as you can. He made it as hard as he could. He was running the top groove. I think he was 2 laps down at this point, so he wasn't even trying to stay on the lead lap. He was just running the top groove, and Allgaier could not get around. It actually cost Allgaier a full second. Fell back. The gap shrunk to half a second. He then got by Landon Castle using a slide job and was in position to win the race. The tires on Reddick's car wasn't really helping. Allgaier had a real good car. A yellow flag came out, and it's kind of shook up the end of the race. So the green flag flew with, I think, under 15 laps to go, and Allgaier rocketed off. He had a nice jump. They were battling for second behind. It was like Reddick, Jones, and Briscoe that were in a 3-way battle for the second position. Brandon Jones took it on one of the late laps with, I think, around 10 laps to go, and then I think he had a flat tire. I think he cut a tire down. I think he maybe ran over some debris and cut the tire down off turn 2 and hit the wall. Slowed down. No yellow came out, though. Justin Allgaier went into the same corner and cut down a tire from the race lead with about a second gap over second on back and finished in, I think, 8th because of a cut down tire from the race lead with under 10 to go. He literally needed probably like 2 more minutes, and he was going to win at Bristol. Instead, he didn't get that, and Tyler Reddick got the win in the Xfinity Series race at Bristol. So that was a great race that we saw. Definitely, I would say the second best race of the weekend, because the best race was the Cup Series race once again. I don't know the last time I have seen a bad Cup Series race at Bristol. Maybe the 2016 spring race. But my gosh, if the last however many races, I'm trying to remember like how many races have been run with this multi-groove with where they put the PJ on the bottom and drivers could run, wherever they wanted. So you have both the 2019 races, both the 2018 races, both the 2017 ones. So about 7 races have been run on this type of style now, and I've enjoyed all 7 of them. That's dating back to the 2016 night race. That's insane. Race was crazy. At the start, Denny Hamlin showed he had the fast car, got out front, and was leading some laps. Then Kyle Larson got there. He got to lead. Actually, Hamlin and Larson traded the lead a few times because they started trying different lanes. The outside was still trying to come in. There still wasn't much grip up there. But, Larson got out front, then Hamlin got right back, and they traded the lead for a few laps. It was really fun racing, really cool racing to see. Hamlin got back out front, and then, my gosh, at Bristol, you're never safe no matter where you are. You could be leading or you could be running 28th, and you're never safe. Well, it turns out the drivers who were running about 20th and 21st were coming to get lapped by the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Those drivers were Austin Dillon and Jimmy Johnson. Kyle Busch had just been lapped in the 18 car. Well, Austin Dillon, entering turn number 1, blows down a tire and goes up towards the outside wall. Who's running on the outside lane? None other than Jimmy Johnson. The 48 hits the 3 car, comes down off of, after getting into the wall, comes down off of getting into the wall, and runs in the right side of the 11 of Denny Hamlin, who's leading the race. So now our race leader has right side damage. Jimmy Johnson, who's on the cutoff to make it into the playoffs. He's never missed it in his career. And now he is wrecked, damaged, and has fallen a lap or 2 down. So, pit stops occur. Kyle Larson gets out front. On the restart, Larson gets away, and Jimmy Johnson is now 1.5 laps down and is trying not to fall 2 laps down. He does end up falling 2 laps down. Kyle Larson ends up winning stage 1, beating a hard-charging Chase Elliott, who actually made it pretty close there at the end. They were side by side with like 2 to go on the stage or something. It was pretty cool to see some close racing there for the end of stage number 1. Stage number 2 had its, bright moments and whatnot. We saw some things happen to where it allowed some drivers to get back on the lead lap. Joe Logano had to come down pit road. He fell 3 laps down. Denny Hamlin, this is a big storyline. So he had that damage. He was running around 10th after that damage. He reports, hey, I have a loose wheel. I have to come down pit road. So he hits pit road. And then, literally, the lap after he comes down pit road, he's falling 2 laps down. A caution comes out. I believe that was the Eric Almirola crash, I think. So that was insane. Some of these crashes happened right in front of race leader, too. Mark Truex Jr. was pretty close to hitting Eric Almirola. Once again, never safe at Bristol. Drivers like Truex had some issues throughout the race. He got the wall. He had to come down pit road. A lot of these big-name drivers. But some yellows during stage number 2 set up some late race restarts. Late stage restarts. I think it was 5 or 6 cars stayed out at towards the end of stage number 2 for what was a 2-lap dash to the checkered flag. So Kurt Busch led the race. Daniel Suarez was second. Ryan Newman getting some points with Suarez was third. Byron was up there trying to get points because, once again, Byron is still trying to race his way in. Even though he has a comfortable gap, he can never be too comfortable in terms of points. So drivers like that stayed out. Ended up with Kurt Busch winning stage number 2. So the first 2 stages went to the Chip Ganassi Racing drivers. And then the question was who was going to win the race. So race was going on. We got some more yellows. We saw Eric Almirola again. And something about minimum speed they have to fix at some of these racetracks. They have to really do something better about minimum speed. Eric Almirola, I looked at this, right? So he was really slow after being crashed twice. Understandable, he crashed twice. He's slow. But he was severely off the pace. So bad off the pace, I was like, you're running slower than the Rick Ware racing cars. At one point, I looked at the lap times. Eric Almirola ran like a 17.01 or something like that. And the Rick Ware, 3 of the 4 Rick Ware racing cars ran in the mid-16s. Only 1 was slower, and it was like the 53 or something. So Eric Almirola was basically driving an underfunded car at this point. His lap times were a second slower than the race leader Brad Keselowski's. And then I was kind of looking, and it took Keselowski 15 laps to lap Eric Almirola. So he went and lapped him, and then it took him 15 laps to just get right back to him. That is insane. That's 15 laps. It doesn't, like, it's not like that's not a long time. It's 15-second lap times. And it took 15 laps. I mean, that is insane. It was like every 4 minutes he was getting lapped. So NASCAR really has to do something about minimum speed, because at so many racetracks, there are just cars that are out there just riding around and just rolling chicanes. They're in the way. Towards the middle part of stage number 3, we saw a cool battle for the race lead. It was Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and then Eric Jones closed in. It was an amazing battle towards the middle of stage number 3. And the big thing was, Kyle Busch, remember, he stayed out at the towards the end of that stage. Everyone else that was on that same strategy, they came down pit road. Kyle Busch stayed out and inherited the lead, led some laps, and then got passed by Brad Keselowski a little bit later on. But he was out there on worn tires and was going to have to pit before everyone else, which means he was going to go at least 2 laps down, and if a yellow came out, he would have been screwed. He would have been done. His chance of a win would have been over. So he was really hoping for a yellow flag to come out, and it just wasn't happening. There got to a point where it was Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. They were battling hard for the lead. We saw lead change after lead change. I think at one point there was 3 consecutive laps where they just traded the lead back and forth. I think it was Keselowski, and then Busch led the lap, and then Keselowski led the next lap. It was crazy, just how competitive it was there. Then Eric Jones kind of flew up onto them. I think Jones got the second, and then Kyle Busch got the break of the race again. I think it's like the 3rd lucky break he had gotten. The yellow flag came out because of Alex Bowman crash. Got Kyle Busch onto pit road with everyone else under the caution flag, so he didn't fall laps down. Kyle Busch kept the lead on the restart, got out front, and then Eric Jones got a great run and got to the inside of Kyle Busch, passed him, and as soon as he was passing him, a massive crash happened in the mirror. Ryan Blaney made contact, I think it was with the 8 of Hemrick, cut down a tire, went straight into the corner, hit Stenhouse, and then the two of the 3 front row racing cars got collected. I think it was David Reagan and Michael McDowell got collected, and then Jimmy Johnson also got damaged in the 48. It ripped the door off the car. Some foam came out. They replaced it actually pretty fast. He only lost, I think, 1 extra lap because of that. So then Eric Jones had the lead on the restart. This was with just over 100 laps to go. On the green flag, Jones with the lead, Kyle Busch in second. I forget who was, I think it was Chase Elliott in third, and 4th place was Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto had been running top 10 all race long. He was top 5 early on, kind of fell back and was top 10. So he was pretty consistent all night long. But then he found himself in the right lane on the restart in a great position. Eric Jones fires off to the lead. DiBenedetto doesn't really get a great restart. Gets side by side with Chase Elliott. Gets to 3rd. Kyle Busch gets very loose on the bottom. DiBenedetto flies around the outside to get by. So it's Matt DiBenedetto in second, trying to run down and hunt down Eric Jones. Well, he does just that. His car's rotating well. He gets to the inside of Jones. They go side by side. 95 gets to the lead. Jones gets to the wall really hard behind. It slows Chase Elliott up. Jones has to come down pit road. So it looked like Eric Jones, who had the best car over the long haul, was now out of the running for the night race at Bristol because he just got the wall. He had to come down pit road, repair the damage, whatnot. And then Chase Elliott, who was second place, was now over a second back because he had to slow because of Eric Jones. So it was crazy how things were kind of playing out for Matt DiBenedetto. Chase Elliott was then second. Brad Keselowski got up to 3rd. Kyle Busch fell back to 4th. Brad Keselowski was trying to get by Chase Elliott, and Chase was not giving up, and DiBenedetto was trying to pull away. The gap was around 0.8 to a second, pretty much that whole run. And then, late in the run, Denny Hamlin. That's right, Denny Hamlin. The last time I talked about him in this video, I said he fell to 2 laps down because of a loose wheel, and he had to recover somehow. Well, he recovered all right. He got up inside the top 10, got up inside the top 5, and then got up inside the top 3. He passes Chase Elliott for 3rd, and then quickly disposes of Brad Keselowski for 2nd. And Denny Hamlin is running the 95 car of Matt DiBenedetto down. The question is, can he get to him? Can he get by him? So Hamlin's running him down. The gap is under a second. Gap is then down to about 0.8, down to 0.7, down to 0.6, back up to 7, down to 6. It's pretty much stabilizing at 0.6 of a second. Lap traffic is going to have to play in Matt DiBenedetto's favor. Some of it does not work out. Hemrick's trying to stay in the lead lap. He holds up DiBenedetto for a little bit. The 95 gets around. Hamlin, though, gets around the 8 easily because, once again, if you are a lap car, you're going to fight the leader harder than you're going to fight second place. Why are you going to fight the leader harder than second place? Because the leader is the one that puts you a lap down. Second place is not. Once you fall behind the leader, you're not really fighting for anything else. You're not going to try and hold up the second place man because he's not really doing anything to you. So Hamlin still trying to run down to Benedetto. It's still about 0.6 of a second. It would get down to 5 or 4 tenths every now and then, but really he couldn't really get any closer. And then Hamlin's saving grace, Ryan J. Newman. Ryan Newman battling on the chase, the playoff bubble. He is right on the bubble of making the playoffs or not. He's so close. He is only, I think at this point, 14 up over the cutoff after the race. Even during the race, he's not even over 15 up. He's still on the bubble. If Matt DiBenedetto wins this race, DiBenedetto forces his way into the playoffs. Newman falls to the cut line and then is only 12 points in. And then Newman's the last spot, and then if someone outside wins, Newman's out. So Ryan Newman is fighting to just stand the lead lap and hope a yellow flag comes out. So he's holding Matt DiBenedetto up. DiBenedetto's trying to pass him. He can't really pass him. Denny Hamlin's closing in because of it. Ryan Newman, the worst thing he did was hit the race leader. I'm all for trying to stay on the lead lap, especially if you're in the position Newman's in, trying to get every point you can. If a yellow flag comes out, and he's still holding up Matt DiBenedetto and he stays on the lead lap, that's a big difference than being a lap down or getting the lucky dog, because then you start with the lead lap cars instead of behind all the lap cars. So Ryan Newman was doing what he needed to do in this situation. That's hold back DiBenedetto as long as he could. The problem I have is that he hit the race leader. That is a huge no-no in just, it's just a huge, just, it was just not good. So he hits DiBenedetto, actually crinkles in the fender onto the tire, and DiBenedetto has a little bit of a tire up. Then he starts to complain, the car's getting tighter, possibly the damage doing that. He finally gets around Ryan Newman, and of course Denny Hamlin gets around Newman easily. Hamlin's running in second, so Newman's not really trying to hold off Denny Hamlin. DiBenedetto gets to a few more lap cars, trying to dispose of them, and then Denny Hamlin gets up to Matt DiBenedetto with about 15 to go. He's within 0.3 of a second and closing in, down to 0.2, down to 1.5. He's right there in the back. He looks to the inside, can't keep it stick, and DiBenedetto gets off the top side and holds the lead. We're down to about 12 laps to go. Hamlin gets to the inside, and off turn 2, they bang doors down the backstretch. Some classic short track racing for the race lead with under 15 to go, and Hamlin clears DiBenedetto through 1 and 2. Hamlin pulls away. Even with lap traffic, he pulls away and wins the night race at Bristol. Matt DiBenedetto, with his best finish of his career, ends up in second. The weekend that it was announced he's not in that 95 anymore, and he almost won the race. It was a great job by Matt DiBenedetto and a great run for Levine Family Racing, because that is just that's really a team which 5 years ago wouldn't have thought about even getting close to winning a non-plate race. Matt DiBenedetto is a guy you wouldn't even think about being close to getting a top 10 at a non-plate race. And here they are, leading the most laps in the Bristol night race. By the way, they led the most laps in a 500-lap race. The most laps led was 93. Matt DiBenedetto led the most laps, and it was under a fifth of the race. It was so competitive here tonight. It was crazy, the type of race that we had. But DiBenedetto ends up in second. Denny Hamlin wins the race. It's his 4th of the season, and he is showing that he belongs in the championship conversation. Hamlin has had I would wager the best summer stretch of anyone this season. He has been just on fire. Like, just think about where the summer started, right? Obviously, Chicagoland, Daytona, Kentucky. Then you get to Loudon. He finishes second to Kevin Harvick. At Pocono, he's running up front. He's a part of the JGR at the front of the field. At Michigan, he finishes second to Harvick. He wins here at Bristol. Denny Hamlin is just... He is a threat for the championship at this point in time. I think he has the most top 5s of anyone this season. He's close to the most top 10s. I think he might be top 3 in the regular season points. So Denny Hamlin is just doing a fantastic job this season. This could top 2010 in terms of his best season in the Cup Series if he can keep this momentum going. So Matt DiBenedetto finishes second once again, and Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, they are not taken nicely to De Benedetto losing to Denny Hamlin. Something I have to talk about is the fact where some people are mad at Hamlin that he didn't let De Benedetto win. Now, this is a win in the Bristol Night Race we're talking about. This is a marquee event of the season, and if Hamlin just lays over and lets him win, that's just kind of team manipulation, I guess. And I'm glad that they raced it out and the best car won. It's a shame De Benedetto didn't get the win, but they raced hard. It was cool to see, and it proved De Benedetto can run up front if he has a good ride. And then some people are also mad that Hamlin made contact. Some people were saying, like, oh, of course you couldn't pass him clean. But it's short track racing. It's not like he wrecked him. He hit him in the door. They banged doors down the backstretch. That is short track racing. Everyone just longs for more short tracks. People are like, we want short tracks. We want short track racing. We don't want these intermediate type tracks. And then you get short track racing where they're banging doors. People are like, man, he passed him dirty. Like, no, that's short track racing. If you don't like banging doors, stop watching NASCAR, because that's short track racing at its finest right there. I don't really know what else to really talk about, other than just it was a great weekend overall for racing. All three races were superb. Bristol is definitely one of my favorite tracks. I think it might be, it's close to Martinsville. I still like Martinsville a little bit better, but Bristol is honestly so close to Martinsville where I could honestly say they're tied at the top. Both tracks are the best on the schedule in my opinion, and just love short track racing. That short track racing, it puts some smaller teams in the spotlight that maybe wouldn't have a chance to run towards the front, and they run towards the front, and they run well, and they are competitive and whatnot, and it's just fun to see. Short track racing. I want more short tracks. Like, I wish we could build more short tracks. In fact, I'm going to talk about building a short track later this week. I'm going to do a different video about the different types of Bristols, because that is another huge thing that people are talking about throughout the week, and how people either like one form of Bristol or they don't like the other. It's a whole thing that kind of splits the NASCAR fan base like down the middle, it seems like. But not much more to talk about. It's already been a long episode. Congratulations to Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing on their win. Congratulations to Matt DiBenedetto on a second place, and maybe I would call the race of his career race. This and his sixth place at Bristol back with BK Racing. Remember BK Racing? He got a sixth place finish with them at Bristol. Matt DiBenedetto is definitely deserving of a good ride to just see how he would perform. I hope he gets a decent ride for next season. And if it can't be in the Cup Series, I hope he gets a great Xfinity Series ride. So, thanks for watching. Good job, Bristol. Love you. Great race. So that's all I really have to say. I'll see you guys for the next video.